She was invisible to them, or so they thought. Just a maid, carrying trays and cleaning up the mess of the wealthy. But when a single word in Mandarin slipped into the conversation, panic spread across the manager's face. What happened next shattered every assumption in the room, because the one person they dismissed as powerless was about to reveal a truth that no one expected. And when her voice cut through the silence, the entire room froze. The question is, how did a moment so small turn into a lesson they would never forget? For years, Mariah lived in the background, working quietly as a maid in one of the city's most prestigious hotels. She rose before dawn, polished silver until it gleamed, and moved through grand hallways where her presence barely registered. To the wealthy guests, she was just part of the scenery. Yet behind her calm smile, Mariah carried a world of resilience and intelligence that no one bothered to see. That morning, a high-profile millionaire had checked in, drawing the attention of staff and management alike. Whispers followed him down the corridor, especially about his command of Mandarin, a language seen as a mark of sophistication. The manager, eager to impress, prepared to showcase his own skills. But Mariah noticed the nervous flicker in his eyes, a hint that something wasn't quite as it seemed. What none of them realized was that the quiet maid, so often overlooked, held a secret that would soon turn this polished world upside down. So why? Lobby shimmered with chandeliers, polished marble, and the soft echo of designer heels. Staff lined up, rehearsed smiles plastered on their faces as the millionaire descended the staircase. The manager stepped forward, his chest puffed with pride, ready to impress. He leaned in confidently, speaking Mandarin with clipped precision. But the words faltered, slightly off, awkward enough for the guest's brow to tighten. A bead of sweat rolled down the manager's temple. He forced a laugh, trying again, only to stumble harder. The room shifted, silence growing heavier than the marble columns. Behind the perfection of the setting, something ugly surfaced. Whispers. Staff members exchanged glances, some smirking at the manager's failure. And then, almost as if on cue, eyes turned toward Mariah. She wasn't part of this performance. She was only there to refill glasses, to disappear once her job was done. But one server nudged another and chuckled, "Imagine her trying Mandarin, she can barely speak English properly." The comment wasn't meant for her ears, but it pierced anyway. Heat rushed to her face. She kept her head down, but the sting clung like fire. The manager, desperate to recover, mocked her too, pointing, laughing, shifting attention away from his embarrassment. "Let's not ask the maid for help," he joked, words dripping with disdain. The guests chuckled, not because it was funny, but because it was easier than facing the awkward truth. Mariah's hands trembled as she adjusted the tray, her heart beat loud in her ears. She'd endured insults before. Polite dismissals, cold, stares, muttered slurs. But this was different. Here, in front of everyone, her dignity was stripped away. Every second stretched longer, each laugh echoing like a cruel spotlight. But beneath the humiliation, something stirred. Her father's words from years ago replayed in her mind. "They'll underestimate you, but never forget what you carry inside." And what she carried was far more than they imagined. As the manager stumbled through another broken phrase, the millionaire's expression hardened, his patience fading. Mariah's pulse quickened. She knew she had a choice: remain invisible as always, or step into a moment that could change everything. And as the room teetered between embarrassment and silence, she felt the weight of every eye, waiting, doubting, dismissing. Her secret was pressing against her chest, ready to break free. But if she spoke, nothing would ever be the same. The silence was unbearable. The manager's failed performance hung heavy in the air, his laughter now desperate, sharp, almost begging for approval. And then, it happened. Mariah drew in a breath, steady but strong, and spoke. Not in English, not in the broken fragments they expected, but in flawless, melodic Mandarin. The words flowed effortlessly, precise and commanding, carrying the weight of years she had spent in study, hidden from the world that never asked who she truly was. Her voice cut through the room like glass, each syllable slicing away their prejudice. The millionaire's eyes widened, astonishment replacing his irritation. The staff froze mid-step, trays suspended, mouths open. The manager went pale. His arrogance collapsed in real time, shame written across his face as he stuttered for an explanation that wouldn't come. But the damage was done. Every guest, every server, every whispering mouth that had mocked her stood in stunned silence. For Mariah, the moment was more than language, it was power reclaimed. Years of invisibility burned away in an instant, replaced by the undeniable truth of her brilliance. But beneath the awe, the deeper wound still throbbed. Why did it take shocking perfection for them to see her humanity? Her heart raced, not from fear, but from the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders. She hadn't just spoken Mandarin. She had broken their carefully built illusion of superiority. And as the words settled into silence, one question hung heavier than the chandeliers. Above, would this room remember her strength, or retreat back into the comfort of their prejudice once the applause faded? The room eventually erupted, some in applause, others in nervous laughter, a few trying to pretend they had never joined in the ridicule. The millionaire, impressed and humbled, bowed his head slightly in respect. But for Mariah, the moment wasn't about applause. It wasn't about proving herself to strangers who had already written her off. It was about reclaiming her dignity in a world that tried, time and again, to deny it. When she left that lobby, tray still balanced in her hand, she carried more than pride. She carried the sting of knowing how quickly people judged her skin before ever seeing her worth. And that truth, raw and unshakable, was far bigger than a single hotel or a single night. Because Mariah's story is not hers alone. It echoes in classrooms, in boardrooms, in neighborhoods across the world. How many voices go unheard? How many talents go unseen, buried under prejudice until a performance proves otherwise? And why must people of color so often be extraordinary just to be treated as equal? Her Mandarin silenced a room, but silence itself is never enough. Change begins when stories like hers are not dismissed as exceptions, but recognized as proof of a deeper injustice. So the question lingers for us, long after her voice fades. How many more Marias must rise before the world stops underestimating them? And when the next chance comes to choose, will we be the ones laughing in the crowd, or the ones willing to listen? The stories shared on this channel are entirely fictional, and created solely for entertainment purposes. We believe in a world where everyone deserves equal rights, fairness, and dignity, and our goal is to share thought-provoking stories that inspire positive change. Any resemblance to real people, events, or organizations is purely coincidental. These stories are not based on actual individuals or events and carry no political or religious intentions.